Okay, welcome everyone. So my name is Rima Mohammed, co-founder of the People's Coalition, alongside with Erica Lycan, they, them. So thank you so much for being here. Tonight's an opportunity to hear directly from several candidates for Congress in Congressional District 13. We invited all candidates in this race and greatly appreciate that these candidates confirmed to join us tonight. We just found out tonight that Congressman Shri Thanadar let us know again this evening that due to a conflict, he is not able to join us. I did want to say thank you, John and Donovan, for being here today. Tonight's questions were based on submitted questions and themes. Because we have a full agenda, we won't be taking additional questions live, and the group chat will remain closed so we can stay focused. A reminder to our candidates this evening, this is an individual response format, not a debate. Please use your allotted time to answer the questions posed to you by the moderators, myself or Erica. Let's keep things civil, I'm sure it will be, and focus on the questions. But we will give you both 2 minutes to respond to each question. So let's get started. So I'll be asking the first question. We're really introductions. So now it's time to meet our candidates. John and Donovan, State Rep Donovan McKinney. I will let you introduce yourselves in brief, 2 minute opening statements. And as part of that, please tell us what are your top priorities as a congressperson for CD13 if elected. So we'll start off with John. John, sorry, you accidentally muted yourself. And remember, I will let you know when the 2 minutes are up.
All right, thank you. Good evening. My name is John Gochi. I'm not a career politician. I'm a fighter. I came to this country as a 9-year-old immigrant from the former Yugoslavia, a place torn apart by conflict and oppression. I've seen what happens when government fail their people, and I've seen the power of America when it stands up for freedom. That is why I'm running, because I believe this country's in trouble. We are becoming slaves to debt. Nearly 20 cents out of every tax dollar goes to just servicing that debt, while the poorest among us are struggling to meet basic needs. Housing is out of reach, and too often our government serves special interests instead of the people. Nothing will change unless you elect someone who will fight to change it. My values are simple: faith, family, hard work, and service. My values are about putting the people first, always. I believe we need a government that takes care of its people from cradle to grave. Universal health care for every American with the option to keep your private insurance, free education and vocational training so our kids and workers can succeed, support for small businesses, that backbone of our communities, good paying jobs and strong manufacturing, protection of workers and accountability for corporations. I believe in dignity and equal protection for every person. I will stand against discrimination, defend free speech, and make sure every voice is heard. I've worked the floors, I've met the payroll, I've been part of a union. I know what real life looks like for working families. I've served as a coach, a school board member, and a small business owner. I don't just talk the talk, I take action. If you have a problem with the federal government, I will fight for you, because this campaign is about restoring what made this country great: freedom, opportunity, and a government that finally works for the people again. And I know what it takes to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Donovan,
I'm so
you're
excited.
next.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Appreciate the People's Coalition for putting this on. Thank you, John, for attending. My name is Donovan McKinney. Currently serve as your state representative in the 11th House District. And now I'm running to be your next congressman here in the Michigan's mighty 13th. I grew up super poor with, my mom, my grandmother, my younger brother. We moved around over 13 times across the city of Detroit. I spent the vast majority of my life on the northeast side of the city, which I currently represent.
Amazing.
My 9th and 10th grade years of high school, in the span of 18 months, a year and a half, I attended 14 of my friends and family's funerals, all due to gun violence in our community. And so, as a state legislator, I'm raising my family there. I have a beautiful wife, three amazing kids, ages 4 and younger. And one of the things that we're working on is making sure that, safety is a priority for our community. I don't care who you are, where you come from, and your walks of life, but being able to just walk down the street to the corner store or walk down the street to the park is something that is near and dear to my heart, because a lot of people are getting gunned down, snatched away by ICE, you name it. There's a ton of just danger out here in the real world, and so that's top of mind for me. Another thing that we're going to be working on is universal free childcare. I told you we pay more for childcare for our oldest son than we do our mortgage. And I'm a state rep, my salary's public, but you got to think about folks who aren't even making ends meet right now. Another thing we're working on is Medicare for all. We need a single payer healthcare system to make sure that everybody with pre-existing conditions or not, let you get the care that you desperately need and the prescription drugs that go along with that. And then also getting the big corporate money out of politics. This is something I've been leading at the state level, which now is the Mop It Up campaign. I authored the legislation in Lansing, and I'm looking to continue on the fight in DC as we overturn Citizens United, and we can do that through congressional action. But we need leaders, especially Democrats, to lead and stop pandering to the corporate interests.
Thank you. Thank you, Donovan.
Thanks so much. Well, I've got the first official question, which I will put in the chat here. And once I read it, Donovan, we'll start with you.
Okay.
So it's on voting rights. The Voting Rights Act of 1965, as many of us saw, has been repeatedly weakened by the courts, and there was a recent action by the Supreme Court. What specific federal actions will you take to restore and expand voting protections, particularly for Black voters in Detroit and across CD 13?
So we need the John Lewis Voting Rights Act immediately passed. What happened in the courts, the decision that came out literally just a few days ago, I'm still heartbroken over it because it impacts the ability to have majority minority districts in our country. Right now, as a state rep, I ran for a majority white district. I ended up winning that district, making history as the first Black person to ever represent majority white district in the history of the state, and the first Black person to ever represent Macomb County in the legislature. So my district got ruled unconstitutional, and now I'm running to, I'm currently representing the VRA district, and I'm running to represent the VRA district in Congress. And this is an opportunity to ensure that no matter who you are, that your rights and based off your color of your skin should not dictate if you have the opportunity to participate in our government in free and fair elections. Now, I'll say this, and then love to hear John's perspective. Right now, we have more Black people in Congress at one time in the history of this country. I think it's around 60 or something Black members a part of the Congressional Black Caucus. Because of the redistricting battles that are happening, people are canceling, states are canceling elections, primary elections right now. They're calling special sessions to redistrict. By the end of this, in the next 2 to 4 years, people are projecting that Black leadership in Congress will fall from the 60s all the way down to 10 to 20. So this is our opportunity to restore people that look like us in these positions, but more importantly, we got to fight like hell to make sure that our values, our rights, our privileges are protected. And I'm going to do everything I possibly can to make sure that you and your voices are heard and that you can participate.
Thanks so much, Donovan. Appreciate it. John, we'll hear from you next, please.
If you could rephrase that question, I'd appreciate it. Or
Yeah, I will reiterate, yes. So the Voting Rights Act of 1965 has been repeatedly weakened by the courts, and there was the action this week by the Supreme Court to weaken it further. What specific federal actions will you take to restore and expand voting protections, particularly for Black voters in Detroit and across CD 13?
The majority of my district is Black voters, and they deserve every protection that we can provide for them to vote. I don't have a specific policy that I would introduce in there, except to give them a candidate that inspires them to get out and vote. A lot of people don't participate in the most important part of our election in this campaign, which is the primary. Our election is going to be decided in the primary, and getting people out to vote is the most important thing, because this is when this representative is going to be selected for the district. November is just, it's basically just a formality. This election is going to be decided now. We have to protect everybody's rights to vote. And if anybody has any issues in my district about voting, I will take that fight on all day long, because everybody deserves a right to vote. And if somebody's being pushed down, somebody's being oppressed, somebody's not being allowed to vote, by God, we're going to make sure that doesn't happen in my district. And I hope to be a candidate that inspires them to get out and vote, more importantly, because 90% of the people that are registered and have that right to vote are not coming out to vote and collecting signatures out there. People are disheartened by the people that are currently serving us. And it starts with better candidates, first and foremost.
Thanks.
Thank you. So I have the next question. So this is more about the impact and issues related to marginalized communities. What is your approach to addressing income and wealth inequities or inequalities in the United States, in particular, Black communities in CD13? Continue to face systemic divestments or disinvestments. What targeted federal investments will you fight for, and how will you ensure they directly benefit those communities? So we'll start with John.
The people in the 13th district are the poorest in the nation. They need the most help among us. The poor keep getting poorer. All my rich friends have been getting richer, and their kids are going to benefit from that. The people that live in the 13th district, the majority of, don't have that generational wealth they can pass down to their children. The first and foremost thing is I want to help people in a home affordable, and helping people get into a home. Affordability is out of control. So we need to come up with a program, not just down payment assistance. As a realtor, people get down payment assistance, but they're the weakest offer on the table. And I want to change that by making that a grant that they get before they even go home shopping. I want them to qualify for that down payment assistance. So when I make an offer on their behalf, I don't have the weakest offer. I have a good, solid offer with money already allocated to them. By helping people get their own home, making them stakeholders in their community, they're going to fix the landscape and have something to pass down to their kids. And when the kids get in trouble and need a place to stay, if parents have a house, they can go lay their head down somewhere. Because if they have, government housing, such as an apartment or something, there simply is no room for them to stay there. And that's another reason we have a lot of homelessness. So home affordability is the most important thing. And part of that is to teaching people how to save and plan for emergencies in their household, and to become more frugal family members and work together more as a family and leave something for the next generation. And we as a government have to give them every opportunity to do that, whether it be through down payment assistance, whether it be retraining so they can get a better job to improve their lot in life. There's a lot that can do, but let's just start with the basic thing: a roof over their head that they can pass down to their children.
Okay, thank you, John. Same question, Donovan.
Yes, and I agree with John in terms of the housing. Now, one of the things that I'm working with Dr. Abdul Syed and Senator Bernie Sanders, have the privilege of earning both of their endorsements, is pushing a wealth tax, which we desperately need to pay for things like Medicare for all, housing for all agenda, jobs for all, like things that are might seem progressive but really common sense to ensure that people have a quality of life that's worth living. But I tell a story all the time about my grandmother in particular. She ended up having the ability to own her home when Detroit was going through, its turmoil and the housing bust that happened, not just in Detroit, but across the country, but exacerbated in CD District 13 in the city of Detroit, because a lot of people lost their homes due to signing on to It is called when they refinance. So they used to own their homes free and clear. Detroit at one point in time had about a 70 to 80% black home ownership rate, the highest in the nation. Now we're less than like 20, 30% of that. And it's because what happened is the banks came in, a lot of folks didn't have opportunity to update their homes. And so what they did was they signed on the dotted line to get these loans to refinance and then realized that they signed with adjustable rates. When adjustable rates hit and people went from like a 1, 2% rate to pay back to like 30, 40%, the housing bubble burst. People couldn't pay for it. They had to leave their homes in droves. And that's why you saw Detroit become the ruin porn capital of the world. People from all across the world would come to the city of Detroit to film and look at all this blight and just the captivity. And so, in reality, we need to make sure that home ownership is a priority. But I'm a big believer in the housing for all agenda, and in order to do that and pay for it, we got to tax the billionaires. They have to pay their fair share in order to do it.
Thank you, Donovan.
Great. I have the third question that I will put in the chat and read aloud here. It's on campaign finance and transparency. So, what has been your personal approach on accepting corporate or large PAC donations for your congressional campaign now or in the future leading up to the election? How would you address corporate and special interest groups and their influence on electeds and their decisions? And Donovan, we will start with you, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm pledged to not take any corporate PAC money in our campaign for Congress. Really blessed enough to be able to run a grassroots campaign with over 31,000 currently individual contributions on ActBlue alone, with the average donation to our campaign being $19. And by the grace of God, we're able to raise over $1 million so far. And so, we're really running a true grassroots campaign, a true progressive campaign, putting people first. Now, we don't want our hands tied behind our backs when we go to DC to fight for you. And so anybody that's taking, corporate money, because I've seen it in the House in Lansing. Like I've seen what these corporations do for just a little contribution. And they twist arms, and a lot of times the people's agenda gets left out. And so the second question is, how would you address corporate interests? One, obviously overturn Senators United. We must do that. Um, but two, we can bar them right here in the state of Michigan from giving to any other candidates through the Mop It Up campaign. So please, for those who don't know about it, it's the money out of politics. They're collecting signatures to put on the ballot this November. It's going to pass if it gets on the ballot. They just need a little bit more support to make it happen. But we can do this across state lines, across the country, but we can do it through congressional action. And I'm excited to really lead that fight with Summer Lee and Bernie Sanders once we get to DC.
Thanks so much, Donovan. John, we'll hear from you next, please.
Thank you. My campaign is focused on representing the people, not special interests, and that's how I guide my approach to fundraising. I've not built my campaign around corporate PACs or money. As a matter of fact, I think the Shri Thandadar is the poster child of what's wrong with our system, where somebody came in with bags of money and bought the seat with having no connections to it whatsoever. I think Citizens United is the biggest travesty that's happened to our country. I think corporations have bought our politicians, and the people need to put up the fight of their lifetime to get their country back, because it's special interest has a chokehold on your elected representatives from top to bottom, and it's time we stand our ground and draw a line and fight the fight of a lifetime.
Thanks so much.
So I have the next question. So this is about humanitarianism. And so as a member of Congress, you will have a direct role in shaping U.S. foreign policy, including decisions on funding, oversight, and human rights. How do you defend your responsibility to respond to global crises specifically in Lebanon and Iran, in Gaza, Sudan, and Congo? And how will you balance those positions with representing the needs and voices of your constituents here at home? So we'll start back with John.
I believe our responsibility, both as a nation and as an elected leaders, is to stand firmly for human dignity, human rights, and the basic protections for innocent life, no matter where the people live, where they are, whether it's Gaza, the Sudan, Lebanon, or in my former home country of Kosovo, which is now a free country. And I got to experience that firsthand. And believe it or not, people have the power to make tremendous change in the world, but we have to stand up no matter where we are in the world, and first protect innocent life and uphold human rights wherever it might be, crying for justice. And we have to be a voice, and I've lived that firsthand. And it's an amazing thing human beings can do when they come together. And we just gotta just be decent people, man. It's how we want to be treated. That's how everybody wants to be treated. When you see an injustice, you gotta stop. It's a lot easier just to keep walking, but I've always been that person that stopped and got involved and stood my ground. And now there was just not that one person, but there was me standing beside them, and then another person joins, and next thing you know, we make a positive difference. And it's just basic human decency. I mean, it's just we're born with it.
Thank you, John. Donovan?
Yes, I mean, again, agree with John on this one. Human life is paramount to me. I kept preaching that for years now. And the fact that we're wasting, I like to say, our taxpayer money funding genocides all across the world, not just in Gaza, but what's happening in Iran, what's happening in Sudan. I mean, there's so many instances where our government, the USA, has caused so much harm and distribution, and in reality, using our money for it, and then telling us like, oh, you know what, you guys want health care, oh, you want food assistance, oh, we can't afford that, like, oh, we can't afford clean water, clean air, like all the simple things that we absolutely need. So as a sitting elected official, hopefully one day being your congressman, like you got to balance it between what makes common sense. And a lot of times what goes on in a lot of our like behind closed door meetings is that they make you think you're crazy. Like they make you think. So you got to check back with your district constantly. You got to make sure that you're doing the right thing as they need you to do, because this is a representative democracy that I believe in, even though Trump and his fascist regime and racist regime is trying to turn it on the inside out. How do you destroy democracy from the inside? And that's what they're literally trying to do right in front of our eyes. However, we need to keep pushing. And so, whatever we can do to ensure that humanitarian aid is delivered, but more importantly, we stop funding bombs and weapons to kill families and children when we have so many strife and like people who can't even survive here. And so, how I define politics is the redistribution of resources, black and white. There's no gray area. We need to bring back home money here because it's the fifth poorest congressional district in the nation.
Thank you, Donovan.
Thanks so much. I have the next question here, which is about healthcare. So, too many Michiganders, especially those in rural areas and communities of color, struggle to access affordable, quality healthcare. As Congressperson, what is your plan to address healthcare access and ensure that no one in Michigan has to choose between their health and their financial survival? And Donovan, we'll start with you, please.
Yeah, I'd like to tell the story about my mom, who, when I was an undergrad at the University of Michigan, so any Wolverines on the call, go blue. We're national champions. Um, I don't care what they say. We're going to get the football championship next year. I'm excited. But my mom, when I was an undergrad, got diagnosed with brain tumors. Fortunately, benign, not cancerous, but they were growing. And so this is right before the ACA kicked in, and I had to find like three other jobs as I was working for as I was going to school full time to try to pay her medical debt and her medical bills so she can get the care she needs. When the ACA finally kicked in, um, it saved her life. She would not be with us today if it wasn't for the ACA, because she technically has a pre-existing condition. Now, ACA is under attack, and I know it's not enough. And so we need Medicare for all. I keep saying that, I keep harping on that, but it's so true. It's not a pie in the sky idea. We can literally fund that. And to make sure that anybody with pre-existing conditions or not is getting the care that they desperately need. And I'm just tired of getting calls from constituents talking about, their care got cut. They can't get their prescription drugs. Like Medicare for all would take care of all of that. And they're like, how do you fund it? Do a wealth tax. Like, it is plain and simple. And stop sending money overseas to fund genocide. So we can do it. We just need the goals to really come together as Congress to do it. But that's why we got to elect the right people.
Thanks so much. And John, we'll hear from you, please.
Thank you. Healthcare is a right. I mean, it's not a privilege, and right now, too many people in our country are struggling for affordable basic healthcare. I'm diabetic myself, and I switched insurances, and all of a sudden, my insulin went from $100 a month to 1,000. So guess who stopped taking that? It just, those are tough choices Americans got to make every day. Um, I personally, my whole family's in healthcare. My sister was a nurse. My daughter is currently a nurse at U of M. My other daughter is going to be a nurse at Madonna. She's breaking me, but that's a whole nother side story. It's very expensive. It's like 16,000 a semester to become a nurse. It's shameful that that's the way the system is operating. I think healthcare is just so important. So we got to lower costs immediately, and the Medicare for all, and there's people that got great private insurance. They can keep that, but we got to have healthcare for all. Take care of our people from cradle to grave. We can do better. We got the money. We're spending money endlessly, unlimited, with no questions asked to fund wars overseas that are genocidal to the Palestinians, and now there's expansions. It's never ending. We seem to have the money to pay for everything that special interest wants done without a question asked. And here we are, fighting for insulin. It's shameful.
Thanks, John.
So I have the next question. So it's about environment and energy impact. So what will you do as a congressperson to limit the corporate and institutional expansion, such as data centers and factories, and associated negative outcomes related to these expansions, especially in vulnerable areas? And how would you hold these companies and institutions accountable? So, John, this is you again.
Well, that starts with feasibility studies and impact studies in the local area. But with AI just exploding, data centers are starting to pop up everywhere, and it makes it hard for communities to not allow those centers in when their zoning laws allow them. So as a realtor, when a client has the right to build something, it's going to be tough to stop them. And it's tough for the people to rise up against that. So the first thing is you got to change your zoning laws if you want to control those things. They're going to raise the price of your electricity through the roof because they take a lot of power. And the reason they use the water is to make it cheaper on the power use to keep cool their systems down. So we're at a threshold where we're ruining our environment to advance our economy. So we as people got to really look at that, because we don't want to get into a situation where we're making money but we're killing the future, we're killing the environment. So we have to have that balance, and we really got to measure twice and cut once, because sometimes there's no coming back from economic not economic, but ecological disasters that can befall our communities through advancements for the sake of the dollar.
Thank you, John. Donovan?
So we need constitutional protections. Literally just about a week and a half ago, I introduced on the state level alongside Senator Sue Shank, the Green Amendment, which essentially puts environmental justice protections right in the Constitution. And what it does essentially is allow cities, municipalities, but like just regular citizens to be able to sue factories, data centers that are coming in without having not only EJ plan, but making sure that they actually follow through with it. NEPA on the federal level is getting, detriment in the courts. The Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court is making terrible decisions on behalf and rolling back environmental justice initiatives and rollbacks for like decades, man. People have been fighting for this for decades. And so data centers are here. I don't necessarily think they're going to go anywhere. I'm going to be honest with you. And so we're going to have to figure out ways to make sure they're sustainable, push back as we can, because like the new era of like Meta and these big corporations and like people on their phones doing all types of AI and all that, like that's not going to end. But what we absolutely need to do is get back to the basics and hold these companies accountable because they're going to be here to stay. And I don't like it, but we're going to have to push back and fight like hell to make sure that the rates aren't being increased, utility rates. I mean, DTE just said, "Hey, we're going to increase the rates again, a rate hike of $500 million, but we'll give you guys 2 years of a rate freeze if you just give us the data centers." Full of BS, man. F them. My opponent, who's the current congressman, always takes money from them, never taken a dime from DT. But we got to hold these folks accountable, even if they're going to be here. Like we have to.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. All right, I have the next question, and it's going to be on student protests and free speech. So, in the past 2 years, particularly, students, faculty, community protesters advocating on current issues such as Palestine, DEI rollbacks, anti-fascism across the country have been prosecuted, doxxed, surveilled, disciplined without due process, and targeted by the state and federal governments for their participation in peaceful protests. As a congressperson, how will you address attacks on freedom of speech and academic expression on Michigan's campuses and beyond? It's a long one. And Donovan, we'll start with you.
Is it my? Can you guys hear me? No.
Yeah, we can.
Oh, okay, great, great, great. I just want to make sure. I would say this. Uh, as a graduate and alum of University of Michigan, I was very heartbroken. I wrote an op-ed that got published about when U of M capitulated to Trump and the border regions and just cut DI programs. And it's terrible the way they created that campus to target like surveillance. Literally, they surveillance the diag and literally are targeting folks looking at the film and video and targeting folks who are protesting. I think college campuses are the ability to have free minds to speak out whenever you want to. But to take that ability to have free speech away, especially on college campuses, it's just a slap in the face to our kids. And so for me, like we got to make sure that at the federal level, there's protections for our students, and I'm going to fight like hell to make sure it is. But yeah, like I'm terrified. Like I'm raising my children. Maybe one day they'll go to the University of Michigan, but hopefully it's in a different time and era where they're not being preyed upon based off their values and based off their voice. I'll tell you this story and I'll pass the mic is when I was an undergrad student, we helped lead the BBUM, being Black at the University of Michigan. And it spurred movements at like Dartmouth and UCLA and Princeton all across the country. But it started at the University of Michigan with our BSU Executive Board, Black Student Union. And so, having your voice shunned or just erased based off of like just your values and a different point of view, I think is bullshit, and we need to call it out every step of the way. And I'm kind of so glad the convention went the way it did. It shows that people are ready and excited to make sure that people's voices are heard.
Thanks, Donovan. Appreciate it. John, let's hear from you on this one.
Thank you. The right to free speech and peacefully protest is one of the most fundamental protections we have under the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. It doesn't matter whether you like the speech or you don't like the speech. Free speech is everything. I personally have fought the state of Michigan back in 2012 when they came in here and shut my campaign down because I was operating in a location that served alcohol, and I fought them with the help of the ACLU, and we overturned that rule. They couldn't even defend it. America is the land of the free, home of the brave, and if we lose our freedom of speech, we're nothing. Currently, 35 states punish you and won't do business with you if you protest against Israel. And our country's freedom is 911, people. It's now or never. I mean, we're at that cusp of being completely demolished as a democracy, as a republic by interest, special interest, foreign interest, money interest. People got to rise up. We've fallen asleep. Time to wake up.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. So we went through many questions, so we're at the end. So hopefully that's okay. So now our candidates will have 2 minutes to make closing statements, and we'll start with Donovan and then end with John. And then just one thing that I wanted to address while you're doing the closing statement is what does accountability to your constituents look like in practice? So Donovan?
Love that. So I'll answer the question first. Accountability. So my slogan is always with the people. And God gave that to me because it's an accountability measure to myself to let go of any self-righteousness and really put the people first. And so I just try to live by that principle. And so with my closing statement, I'll just say this, like, I'm just, a young man that is a family man, father of three young kids, wife at home, working class person, don't come from any wealth at all. And to have the opportunity to do this forum alongside so many great people, but more importantly, have this opportunity to run for Congress in this moment where not just the Voting Rights Act is being rolled back through the courts, but the birthright citizenship issue I like to talk about. And the original man, the person that has the real true right to vote in this country are white men who are Protestant that own property. Everybody else, if we don't fall into that category, everybody else, technically your voting rights are voting privileges. And so me being able to hold office and run for a bigger office is only because of the 14th Amendment. People that look like me are still considered three-fifths in this country. It's never been outlawed or eliminated. It's still in our Constitution. And so for me, this is everything. Like we have to fight for not only our rights, but for our ability to exist in this country, to be recognized as true citizens when we're all under attack from ICE. People think these detention centers are just about our immigrant migrant communities. It has something to do with them, our brown sisters and brothers. But in reality, it has a lot to do with everybody else that can be easily pickpocketed and taken away and put in those detention centers because they're trying to figure out how to sub-citizen us and make sure that we live in that way. And I'm telling everybody on this call, everybody that I get a chance to speak to, we aren't going back. We are going to fight like hell for our rights and make sure that we together have the ability to keep pushing and move forward as a collective. So I just, again, appreciate everybody on this call. Thank you so much for listening. But we got to get more people excited. We got to get more people educated about what the hell is going on. But yeah, I'm excited to be your next congressman.
Thank you, Donovan. And I appreciate you. I know that you had to leave in a few minutes, but thank you for being here. John, you're up next.
Thank you again to everyone who took time to be here tonight. At the end of the day, this race isn't about politics, it's about people. It's about the families who struggle to afford groceries and rent. It's about workers who've done everything right but still worries about retirement. It's about the young person wondering if you'll ever be able to buy a home or build a future. I understand those concerns because I live them. I came to this country as a child with nothing. I didn't have any connections. I didn't have any advantages, but I had opportunity. And I worked for everything I've earned. That's the promise of America. And right now, too many people feel like that promise is slipping away. We see it when jobs leave. We see it when healthcare costs go up. We see it when government listens to special interests instead of the people. That's why I'm running, not to be part of the system, but to fix it. I'm going to go work every day in this race. I'm going to show up every neighborhood, listen to every voice, and fight for every family because I believe in a country where hard work is rewarded, healthcare is affordable, education opens door, and government works for the people. No matter where you're from, what you believe in, or where you've been through, we're all in this together. And if you give me the opportunity to serve, I will fight for you every single day because this isn't just about my campaign. This is our fight. Thank you. And I ask for your support. I believe there was a second question about accountability.
Accountability. So what does accountability to your constituents look like in practice?
You know what? I own two businesses in the district. I opened one up on the east side of Detroit, Big Mo's Kitchen out there in 8 Mile of DeQuinder. And I have one here in Wayne in the other part of the district. And I do real estate throughout. Accountability is facing the people and being able to look them in the eyes and tell them you did your best to deliver for whatever their need was, whether it was for housing, whether it was for a local food pantry. Accountability is being to help be held accountable to the people that depend on you. And I'll be out there every day and accessible.
Thank you, John. And
Can I
thank you,
say this
John
real
and
quick?
Donovan. Yeah, go ahead. Go for it.
John, I'm excited about the rollout on 8 Mile DeQuinder, your restaurant.
Yeah.
This is in my
I
current state house district. So, hey, I appreciate you because that strip right there, the Belmont Shopping Center,
Yeah.
that's where I learned how to drive in the parking lot. But
Well,
like it needs so much TLC, man. So I appreciate you guys
well,
opening
you
that
know
spot.
what? I'm
Yeah.
doing my part. It's
Yeah.
I was there trying to sell it for the guy, and the lady walked in with her kid, and she's like, "Where can I have Sunday breakfast with my son?" I go, "Geez, I don't know. Let me Google it."
Hmm.
Nowhere to go have a sit down breakfast on Sunday morning, so hopefully I can provide that for the community.
Oh,
Love
Yeah.
that.
No, we appreciate that.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, thank you
Well,
both for being here, and I'll pass it on to Erica to wrap us up.
yeah, again, thanks to both of you for spending time with us, and thanks everyone who tuned in. I just have two closing minutes. So for those who don't know, we're kind of doing the intro at the end because we wanted to make time for the questions, but our People's Coalition was founded in January 2025 as a movement dedicated to justice, equity, and people-powered change. And we bring together diverse communities to amplify marginalized voices, mobilize collective action, and challenge systems that put profit and privilege over people. We're coming off an incredible focused effort to educate, mobilize, and turn out voters for the Michigan Democratic Party convention back in April. Really excited about those endorsed candidate wins. And we're thrilled that 7 of our 8 endorsed candidates won MDP party endorsement, which is awesome. There also was a record turnout, which again, let's build that same energy and turnout for the midterms and for the August primaries. So if you're new and want to get involved, you can join our coalition through our website, and we'll put the link in the chat. And we do have several events coming up. I'm going to put those in the chat too. One is kind of a more partner or volunteer focused call, although individuals are welcome. That's Next Steps to November. So it's talking about how we build on that momentum we had at convention and how we take it to, again, midterm elections. That's May 11th. And then on the 14th, we're going to have a forum for the congressional candidates in CD11. So we would love to have y'all at either one of those. Anyone on the call can click through. The last thing I'll say is that, of course, this work, while we're very thrifty and frugal and resourceful, this work does take money. And so I'm going to put our donation link in the chat there. And if anyone has the ability to donate and support our work, our presence at convention was made possible by many, many, many individual donors giving small amounts, right? Um, yeah, we are really thankful to have everyone here tonight. I think that's all I have. Rima, any other closing thoughts from you? I think we said what we wanted to say.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely organizing for the primary. So forums like this is very important. And we're not going to hold a forum in every district. But the ones that are more contentious. So there are, one that's coming up, but please do plug in. I don't know if we have our WhatsApp chat at all. I don't have that link,
You
but
know what I'll do? I'll follow up an email with folks that
okay.
attended here
Yeah.
and send it to you. But yeah, we are organizing in WhatsApp, and that's a nice way to be engaged in the conversation. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, just so that you're engaged. So we have a lot of things to do, but yeah, please join us. Thank you so much for coming. And I think that's it.
Yeah,
Go Pistons.
that's right. Go
I
Pistons.
know. Oh yeah, go
Thanks for
Pistons.
taking the
Hey, thank
time.
you guys. Appreciate
Happy
it.
Cinco de
Thank you.
Mayo. Thanks, everybody. Take
Thank
care.
you so much. Okay.